Cheers, guys. Epyx911. Welcome to the Elitist Geek. My last video, I covered a few upcoming games that I'm really stoked about, really jonesing for. But I noticed I missed some games. So the ones that I talked about were Assassin's Creed Unity, Lords of the Fallen, and Civilization Beyond Earth. Well, there's a few more, obviously, that are coming out. And one game I forgot to mention was Far Cry 4. Now, thoughts on the game are a bit polarizing. It's very close to Far Cry 3. And Far Cry 3 was a pretty drastic departure from Far Cry 1 and 2. I really enjoyed 1. In fact, 1 came around at a time when I hadn't beat very many first-person shooters. I was really back into the swing of strategy games and RPGs. But when Far Cry came around, it was something different. It was not your typical rail shooter. It had that sandbox feel, which was fantastic. You could really roam around, and a lot of it was illusion. You still had to kind of follow a fairly linear path. But how you approached each obstacle on that linear path was amazing. And it was refreshing. You could take a small little village over by the seaside several different ways. You could attack guys from the water. You could sneak kill them. You could go in charging like Rambo. You could, all kinds of different ways you could go about it. And even like guerrilla tactics. Hit, run, back into the jungle. Hit, run, back into the jungle. That was really cool. Far Cry 2 I never really got into. I wasn't a huge fan of the setting. Tried playing it a few times, just didn't get far, couldn't finish it. Far Cry 3, enjoyed that, beat that game, and I really liked where they were going with that. They really pushed the envelope of the sandbox feel of that game. Basically, they expanded the areas that I liked in the first Far Cry. So Far Cry 4, which I believe is kind of in the Tibetan highlands or northern India, that whole region, the Himalayas, looks pretty interesting. It's one I'm going to definitely give a shot. I believe that comes out in November as well. And it's not a huge departure from Far Cry 3. I believe it uses the same engine. They've probably done some graphical enhancements, I'm sure, but not hugely different. Still, looks good, and it's my kind of game. You spend this money as a gamer on a gaming rig, and it's not the most powerful gaming rig on the planet that I've got. It's i5. I think I'm running at 4 gigahertz. I've got 2 ATI/AMD 290s running in crossfire mode, 16 gigs of RAM, DDR3 RAM. So it's not a slouch, but it's not brand spanking new. Obviously, there's video cards that could kick the snot out of those out right now, but it holds its own. It's a decent card. So every once in a while, I like a game like Far Cry 4, not just for the eye candy, but for the gameplay, but kind of for the eye candy, if you know what I mean. Dragon Age Inquisition. I also didn't mention that in the last video. Dragon Age was fantastic when it first came out. I loved the first game. It was everything that I loved about the BioWare games, Baldur's Gate and Icewind Dale. It was basically D&D without saying they were D&D. The setting, and it was Baldur's Gate spiritual sequel without saying you're a Baldur's Gate spiritual sequel, which I thought was fantastic. Dragon Age 2, not so much. I thought they went a little Chris Roberts with the cinematics, and some older gamers are going to get that reference. I realize I should probably explain. Chris Roberts is the developer. Well, you guys probably know him from Star Citizen. He also created the Wing Commanders, and the first couple Wing Commanders were just fantastic. And then he started getting his Hollywood ambitions, and can't blame the guy. He got bored, status quo. But it all became about making a movie for him. He wanted to kind of make the next Star Wars video game, and lost me as a fan. I just wasn't that into those later Wing Commanders. I think the last one that I really enjoyed, was probably 3. Although the Elite style ones, the RPG light ones, where you build up your ship, that they came back a little later. Privateer's what I'm thinking of. No, Privateer wasn't bad though. But regardless, I like my cinematics light, not to take over the whole game. Which is a reason why I never went back and finished Metal Gear Solid, because I felt like I was watching a movie rather than playing a game. It wasn't even an interactive movie, it was a movie with a little bit of gameplay. The other game I'm looking forward to on the 3DS, this has really been a dry year for RPGs for the 3DS. I gotta say, I'm really disappointed. 2013 and the end of 12 were fantastic. Lots of RPGs, Etrian Odysseys, Bravely Default, tons of games. And then this year it's been pretty dry. But we do have a bit of a saving grace in that PersonaQ Shadow of the Labrynth. That's a Persona game that's going to use an Etrian Odyssey style approach to how it does the dungeons. Kind of looked a little more Class of Heroes to me, but regardless, it's a game I will give a shot. I've always liked the Persona games, but my problem with them is they get too fucking social. You know what I mean? It's like the school year's fun, but then in the summertime, like me in real life, I gotta admit I'm a bit of an introvert. I got a tight circle of friends. A couple of guys that I hang with. My wife, and me spend a lot of time together. My daughter. But I'm not big on parties and social stuff. I love stage work. I've done theater. But that doesn't mean, lots of introverts like being or are comfortable in front of people or, enjoy theater. Here's the way I always describe being an introvert is I like being in front of a group of people. I don't want to have to mingle with that group of people after. You know what I mean? So big, huge parties, not stuff that I enjoy. And that for me is the thing in Persona that I don't really like. It's like summertime, you've got to maintain all these relationships. And it's another reason Harvest Moon and a lot of those other games, I have a hard time getting into them because you have to be so social. I just want to go kill monsters, talk to people, quest-related stuff. But I don't want to, talk about what you baked yesterday and what you're going to bake tomorrow and what you're going to wear to the ball, because I don't give a shit. Sounds cruel, but that's just me being honest, and I don't like that in my games. What do I got on the go? Oh, some wicked games. I've got to come up with a video for Wasteland 2. I know there's tons of reviews out there, but I think it still bears making a video. There's still some cool stuff to talk about. Wasteland 2, I super happy when the game first came out, and then I gotta admit, I was choked. I got caught by a game-breaking bug, basically. My definition of game-breaking might be a little different than other people's game-breaking. For me, game-breaking is anything that breaks the fourth wall for me in a game. It doesn't have to mean it's a crash to desktop bug. It doesn't have to mean that save file gets corrupted. It can be something that ruins a quest in a game and makes it unplayable. So I think it was Vulture's Cry. She's an NPC party member that you can get to join your party. You've got to basically free her from a cage surrounded by taunting townspeople. And I'm not going to get into spoilers here. I don't think this is a huge spoiler, but if you're offended by this type of thing, maybe just mute for a few seconds, and I will put up my hands when you can listen again. So Vulture's Cry is an NPC that you have to rescue from a cage, taunting village people around her. And there's a couple of ways to go about that. You can occupy the townspeople with things and make them leave. You can basically then, pick the lock and free her. But the game intends you to talk to her first, then talk to the townspeople, and then get her to join your party if that's what you want. Okay. What I did is didn't talk to the townspeople, went to the cage, didn't talk to her, just busted her out, and she said she was going to join me. But then when I actually asked her to join me, she acted like she wouldn't, or that I hadn't. And then as soon as I left the screen and went back, she was gone. So she basically left, and she didn't respawn where she was supposed to. To me, that's game breaking because it ruined the game for me, the experience. So really game flow breaking, I guess, is more appropriate. So I basically didn't touch the game after that. Fast forward to... Putting my hands up, you can listen now. You can listen. Fast forward to the release of patch number 2, and they fixed that bug. So I got to give it to the In Exile team. They've patched bugs, they fixed bugs. These haven't been cosmetic patches. These have been awesome in addressing issues. There's 50 plus things in each patch in terms of game bugs. Yes, you could argue that should have been fixed before, but honestly, the game was stable, and there's so many iteration possibilities or variables with quests in an RPG that I can understand that some of these got through QA, so I got no problem with that. But yeah, so that's the game I got on the go. Legend of Grimrock 2, I only gave it about 5 minutes, but it's one after Wasteland 2 that I'm going to... definitely going to play. What's the other one that I've been doing? Borderlands Pre-Sequel, loving it. Couple of things that I don't like. And let's just get those out of the way. I don't like the way oxygen is handled in the game. And let me explain. So, you basically, oxygen is kind of like, a third health bar. So, what happens is as soon as you're exposed to an oxygen vacuum environment, your oxygen counts down, it goes to 0, you basically suffocate, you die. All right? You can get oxygen canisters as drops from either treasure chests or monsters that will give you 25% of that oxygen back. All right? The problem is that those canisters are way too fucking plentiful. There's also oxygen vents on the surface of the moon that you can step on that replenish all your oxygen, not 25% or 50 or 75, but will fill you up to max. They are so common and frequent that there really was no point in having a vacuum environment, in my opinion. Likewise, if you ride a vehicle, you've got a little oxygen bubble on your head. In other words, you ride the vehicle, you get the oxygen that goes along with it. They would have been better off, in my opinion, doing that while you walk around. It's part of your suit. Like your default condition is that you've got this breathing apparatus, or maybe do an initial quest for it. And then throughout the course of the game have specific random or intentional things that are infrequent, like an electrical attack that short circuits your suit that makes you lose oxygen. That would really put you on your toes, and it would make a lot more sense in terms of gameplay, flow, and pacing than what they're doing now, which is just oxygen is just Monty Hall. It's everywhere. There's no reason to not have just given the player full oxygen if that's what they were going to do. They really could have played with the oxygen, in my opinion, and made it something that was a constant, but could be put in jeopardy through rare game events that, when they do happen, make you think, oh shit, I got to get back to the inside of a base stat. I've got 60 seconds or 70 seconds or whatever, right? Just my opinion, just my 2 cents. I love the Aussie accents. I think that's fantastic. I love the setting. I had one more complaint. I should have made a note of this, but can't remember what it is right now. Those were the jump pads. So I love the it's not zero G, the moon-like environment. I'm getting the idea that it's kind of like based on our own moon, Luna, and you're basically 1/6 of the weight that you are on Earth, So it's 1/6 of Earth's gravity. Anyways, they've also got jump pads throughout the game, and they're a bit gimmicky because there's certain areas that you can't reach without these jump pads. To me, and the butt slam. So those three things. The oxygen one bugs me probably the most in that it's really redundant. They could have just done away with it. The gimmicky jump pads, I can live with it, whatever. I love jumping high and, spinning around and killing 4 guys with headshots. That's a blast. But again, that could have been part of the suit's ability, right? Like with oxygen. Maybe upgrades to the suit would let you jump higher or something to that effect. I think would have been more worthwhile as a gameplay element. And then, the vehicles themselves, they're pretty good. Moonstones take the place of iridium. It works. It works. A bit more generous in this game. Money has more value than it did in Borderlands 2. It's more like it was in 1. There's actually a reason to want to have money. The grinder machine is a wicked addition. Sincerely recommend doing the grinder series of quests when you get to that. And Divinity Original Sin. Still haven't beat that game. Still enjoying it. So there you go. That's it for this week's episode. Appreciate you guys listening to my ramble. I want to know what games you guys are looking forward to. And, what are you jonesing for over the next couple of months? And also feedback on any of the games that I've talked about today. Let me know your thoughts and opinions. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. I do appreciate it. And if you don't like the video, hey, you don't like the video, you can thumbs down it, you can thumbs up it. But please, if you do thumbs down, let me know why. If it's something you didn't agree with in the video, helps me get better and stop doing things that obviously annoy. And if you're just being a troll, well, then you're just being a troll. Nothing I can do about that. All right, guys, as always, cheers till the next episode.